After 2 hours of banging on the locked and bolted door of his home at 6 Rue de Bruyère, Monsieur Lancelin admitted defeat and called in the French police for help. 2 officers breached the home and at first glance they could see nothing wrong. Hi, I'm Jem.
And I'm Victoria.
And this is
The Criminal
Crack. That was nice.
Very nice.
Do you not think we did a nice job there?
Very nice.
How the devil are you, me love?
I'm okay, I think. I don't know what I've done. You know, you're always saying, oh, you've done this and that, and you make my life sound like I do nothing, in that voice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I've done other than work. Have I
I've
done
done
anything?
stuff.
Have you done stuff? The
Yes.
tables have turned.
Oh, it's not that exciting, but
Oh.
yes. I went out for a family meal for my
Lovely.
stepdad's birthday.
Oh, yes, you did. Yeah, you told me
did.
that. Was it good? All good?
It was really nice.
Where did you
actually. It
go?
was busy. We just went to the Muckle because my kids are obsessed with wings. So we went there and it was really good. And then at the weekend, so they both had money left over from Christmas and birthdays. So Cordelia's October, Xavier's January, and they had so much money. And every time I was putting money onto their cards for pocket money, I was thinking, God's sake, they need to spend some of this. So took them to Aberdeen and they spent some money and went to Popeyes for chicken wings. And we went to Mini Mart.
Oh, this is the place that I poo-pooed by accident.
Oh, raging with you I was.
Sorry.
Mini Mart is it's a Chinese supermarket. However, it's set up like the 7-Elevens in America, and it has loads of like viral things. So there's Korean stuff, there's Malaysian stuff, there's American stuff, and it was so much fun. As you go in, there's like outside there's a food cart, not cart, but like a van, and it's got maybe like 5 meals that you can pick from. And then when you go in, there's like a little cafe, not a sit-in, like a takeaway, and they do some food as well. And Malaysian coffee, which was really nice. And I was sold because it had condensed milk in it.
See, you're selling it better to me now. You sent me a couple of pictures and I went, wow, that looks expensive.
Yeah, but you didn't give me an opportunity and I was so excited. I've been wanting to go here for ages. I saw it on TikTok from Northeastern Quine, I think she's called. And ever since I saw that, I was like, I've got to go. And we went.
And see, now I want to go.
We'll have to
now
go.
That you've explained it properly.
They've got this bit
me.
where, you know the big gulp cups that they have in America? So they're filled with ice and then you pick like a syrupy saucy thing. So you pay for the syrupy saucy thing and you get your ice out of the freezer, and when you pay they give you a straw and you make your drink. And I had a hazelnut black coffee, which is unlike me.
Ah, see, I thought you were going to say something fruity.
Well, no, but there was fruity. There was blue lemonade. There was peach iced tea.
Oh, that would be mine, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I love peaches.
But
Moving to the country, I'm going to eat a lot of peaches.
You're in the country and I've not seen you eat a peach since you've been here. Oh, you did that peach tartan, didn't you?
Tart tartan, yeah.
Whatever. And also, I've got myself a little bit confused now. Wait a sec. There's a room where everything's £1, and I saw a Sanrio My Melody. It's some sort of cooking implement, but I didn't buy it. But I saw that. But they've got bags of like duck throats. They have bags
For dogs?
No. And they have bags for with like falling octopuses, they're called, and you buy them and but I wasn't brave enough for anything like that.
No.
But they have noodles coming out of the wazoo.
I don't think I want wazoo noodles.
Wazoo noodles are good. And I got this cake. It's called a tiger roll. And it looked like a Swiss roll. And it looked hefty. But it wasn't. It was as light as air.
Not made with real tigers.
I think the tigers make them.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Way more sense.
There was a tiger there doing a demonstration. And it's got like...
Did he try and sell you the world's sharpest knives? Because if he did, I've met him. And he's not to be trusted.
Yeah, he did do that. I'm like, I'm just here for cake, dude. And he was like, fair income, mate. He's Australian. And also, the cake has like little blotches of colour in it. There was pink, green and brown, and it was like coffee flavour, but it was like eating clouds. It was nice. And the staff there were wonderful, so I highly recommend a visit.
It sounds good. It does sound good. Ignore my messages when I'm in a bad mood.
Oh, I knew you were in a bad mood, but then I was in a bad mood. So I messaged her all these pictures, and she said, "Yeah, don't be rubbing off on me." That should put you in a good mood. Oh, the CEO is outside. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say again. Oh yeah, I sent her all these pictures. I'm really excited. You can hear how exciting a day I had going to a supermarket. And she put back, "That's well expensive," or something. And then the next text said, "It's cheaper at the Inverness one." And my response was, "Wait a shit on my day." And then the next one was, "And it's not even a chain." But because we're besties, it doesn't matter. We come together again.
Yes. And then we did the twin thing earlier with the donut conversation.
Yeah, and
it's amazing.
In a couple of episodes ago, you mentioned the jammy donuts when I was talking about the Strathisla Bakery.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I don't think I've ever bought them from
You
there.
did? No, the ones that I really like are from there.
No, the ones you really like were from
promise.
Harry Gout. They're not, because they don't have them.
No, I promise you. I just rolled my lip somehow. I vibrated it. I should be a beatboxer.
Or a horse.
It's the year of the fire horse.
Okay.
Anyway, I read that somewhere. I don't know what it means.
Did you read it in a dream?
No, I read it on that very knowledgeable source of accurate information called Facebook.
I was going to say eBay.
Anywho.
I'm just tired.
I'm tired. I'm in a bit of a funk, but it's
Your
all
boobs
right.
are looking percoid today.
My boobies.
They look like you've had them done.
My, what did that thing? Cupid's kettle drums. There we go.
What's a Cupid's kettle drum?
Boobies. Cupid's kettle drums. Bum, bum, bum.
Have you just made that up?
No, apparently it was a Victorian saying.
And Victoria said it.
I did. Oh, that was something exciting that happened this week. I went to the beach, as I quite often do, and I found a Victorian medal, which was commemorating Queen Victoria's 60th birthday, I think, or 60th year of being Queen.
If you were about to say 60 years of being alive, that is her birthday.
Yeah, no, it says on it sexagenary, which...
That's not a month.
No, it should be. Bow chicka wah wah.
When's your birthday? The 16th of Sexuanery.
No, it was really cool, and I found that, and
you put it on Curiosity Crack, didn't you?
I did put it on the Curiosity Crack, and I've been out on the bike, which was good fun. But you know how it makes your bum feel bruised when you haven't been out on a bike ride for a while?
Yeah.
Yeah, that bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because we did quite a long bike ride, but that was good.
Sort of like just where the gooch becomes the butthole.
Yeah.
That bit there, the bony bit there. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah. Saddle sore, I guess that's what they're referring to. But that was good, because the sun's been shining here, which is nice, but it's misleading because it's still blooming cold.
It's
anyway,
not cold. That's just Victoria.
We're both sat here in blankets.
That's just for comfort levels.
Okay. Anyway, Gemma, tell me, what is the square root of 144?
11? Is it?
No, it's 12, but anyway.
I was so close. Don't do that to me. I've got dyscalculia.
What's the crack?
Well, Victoria, this is a long one. This is 21 pages, so buckle the F up, guys. Right, see, for this episode, I really got myself in a pickle because when I was in the planning stages, well, initially I was going to do a case of domestic abuse where the victim was male, and I have that case sitting ready to do. But then I found this case that is something that happened that is so huge, and we should have known about it, and I didn't know about it. So I think if I didn't know about it, you didn't know about it. And I started looking into it, and the more I was looking into it, there was more and more victims coming out. There was more and more information coming out. And by, I think, Friday night, I was just like, I'm not going to have this ready. And I had planned, like I've got like 8 documents with different titles that say episode 24 draft, episode 24 perpetrator. But I couldn't see them all at the one time. I didn't have enough ink to print everything off, and I just got myself in a right pickle.
So now I'm in a pickle as to what you're talking about. Like, are you doing that episode, or are you...
That episode is coming. I am hoping that it'll be the next one. That made you burp?
No, I nearly choked on my own spit. I don't know what was going on.
Oh.
And breathe.
That episode will come, and so will the first one I mentioned. But this one, I needed more time. So I went into the True Crime Time with Gem Days and pulled a script from there. So it's a story that I've told before, and I know that you know it. I haven't told it on here, but when I did it on the radio, it was, I think, 4 episodes of 15 minutes, and it was never enough. That's why I came here to do a podcast, so I could get more information.
Yeah,
out.
you always said 15 minutes isn't enough, because it's barely enough to get the bones of a story, is it? Let alone put all the flesh on it as well.
God, that's a horrible way to describe that. I hate that word as well, the F word.
Meat.
It doesn't begin with an F.
No, I was giving you an alternative.
I know. You were giving me a synonym.
A synonym? Synonym buns.
So what I decided to do was, like, I've pulled one out of the vault. But before we get into it, I've got to share a definition with you. Folie à deux. Which is French for folly of two, which is also known as a shared psychosis or shared delusional disorder, a rare psychiatric syndrome in which symptoms of a delusional belief and sometimes hallucinations are transmitted from one individual to another. So I want you to remember that description as we go through this, and I know you know what case I'm going to do now.
Folie à deux.
Folie à deux. I'm not calling it folie à deux, and I'll tell you for why. Because when I did it for the radio station, I had it all planned, I'd done all my research, and the week the first episode was due to come out, bloody Marvel or DC or whoever did the Joker released that they were doing the film with Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix, Folie à deux. So then I looked like a right chump, like I was copying, and I thought, I wish I'd written down my idea, sent it to myself signed delivery, so that I could prove that I had the idea first. I do have something else to say before I begin, as is my nature. The content of this episode is really graphic in nature, so please proceed from here with caution. We'll also be discussing a particular mental health condition in depth, so if you feel like this is not for you, please consider missing this episode and coming back for the next one. We won't be offended.
We won't be offended, but you might miss out.
On something.
On something.
Right, so I'm pretty sure this is our first time covering a case from France. Have we had a French one? We've had...
No, I think you're right. I think this is our first French... Oui, correct,
oui, monsieur, madame.
Folie à deux.
Okay, so let's begin. Le Mans is a city in the southwest of France, which you may know as the home of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Do you know it?
No.
Neither did I. I hadn't heard of it. I'm pretty clueless with anything, even remotely sporty. And because I'm nosy, I looked it up.
Is it something to do with cars?
Yes.
Oh, I do know, because I've seen posters. They're a really cool French poster. Yeah, no, I know what you...
They're French posters in France?
Well,
It's actually considered to be the world's most prestigious yearly endurance race for performance cars. And I put "and" for their drivers, because it must be a lot of work for them. I don't know if that's the correct way to say it, but it's basically fancy sports cars doing laps around the city of Le Mans. I've just torpedoed what it's meant to be in France, but they do over 24 hours, and whoever completes the most laps is the winner. That's it. And for our quizzers, and we're going to be quizzing soon, it's one of 3 races alongside the Monaco Grand Prix and the Indianapolis 500 that make up the Triple Crown of Motorsport. Did you know that?
Nice, yeah. The Indy 500. Cool.
I knew that one. And I obviously knew the Grand Prix. Le Mans is also the birthplace of sisters Christine and Léa Papin, who were the second and third born daughters of a couple named Gustave Prosper Papin and Clémence Mélanie Deret.
Good pronunciation, Gemma.
Well, we hope so.
I think.
The Papin family never appeared to have been particularly happy, and home life was tumultuous from the very beginning, to say the least. Clémence Deret was just 22 years old when she met and began dating 26-year-old Gustave Papin. At the time, she was working in a seedman's shop, which, because I'm nosy again, was essentially like a small nursery which sold seeds and plants. She was an assistant, while her suitor, Gustave, worked in a paper mill which was owned by his father. When word of the pair's courting came to light, it set off the Le Mans local gossips, as they believed that from the beginning Clémence was cheating on her beau with her boss at the shop. Now, it's not entirely clear if Gustave was aware of this, or if, in keeping with his nature, which was described as laid back and amenable, he chose to turn a blind eye. Whatever the case, in 1901, when his cheating, scabby girlfriend announced she was pregnant, he did what was expected. He proposed to her.
Honourable.
It is honourable, but stupid.
Yeah, honourable isn't always the right thing. Is
No. Clémence was around 4 months pregnant when on the 3rd of October 1901 the pair married, and just 5 months later, in March 1902, they welcomed their first daughter, Amelia Clémence Papin, into the world. Now, I'm saying they, but the local rumour mill would speculate that little Amelia's daddy was not Gustave, but the seed man, which is quite apt if you think about it.
Technically, it was the seed man's either way.
Oh, yeah. Maybe Gustave was a seed man. 3 years after Amelia's birth, the tea was being spilt again about her mother and the seedman being together. But this time, Mr. Papin didn't stand for it, and though he didn't leave his wife, he did make her leave her lover behind when he took a new job in what was a commune called Marigny. Located in the Maine-et-Loire area of southeast France, he began working in a sawmill, hoping that this would put an end to the nonsense of Clémence and this other man. Suffice to say, she didn't take any of this very well. Likely assuming that her husband wouldn't stand up to her, she threw the mother of all hissy fits, declaring to Gustave that she would rather be dead than leave her hometown. This carry-on went on unheeded by Gustave, who had made the decision, and the family of 3 moved as planned. It is clear, as I said, that this was far from a happy and loving home, and after they arrived in Marigny, Gustave began seeking solace in alcohol, regularly hitting the bottle when Clémence, who could never be described as a nurturing mother, paid little attention to him or her child. Despite this, however, she fell pregnant again. None of my research speaks to who the father of this child was, but I would say it was unlikely to have been Gustave Papin's, given his wife's past behaviour and her refusal to spend any time with him since the move. If you don't go near them, you can't get pregnant.
Yeah.
The poor little mite arrived on the 8th of March 1905, another girl who was given the name Christine Germaine Papin. Thankfully, at this time, Clémence, who was not in the least bit maternal, gave little Christine away to her sister-in-law, Gustave's sister, Isabelle, and she raised her with her husband, as Christine just didn't want to. That was the upshot of it.
What, the mum just didn't want...
Christine did it, so she kept Amelia, but she didn't want the next baby, so she basically just handed her over.
How lovely.
Yep.
Some people.
This did end up being the best thing for Christine, allegedly, who then spent the first 7 years of her life in a loving and secure family home with people who genuinely loved her.
That's good. Oh.
Yeah. I haven't been able to establish where Amelia was during this time, hopefully not still with the Papins, but on the 15th of September 1911, Christine became a big sister when Clémence gave birth to another child, a third girl, who was named Leah Isabelle.
So she gave away the second baby because she couldn't be bothered and didn't want to be a mum.
What we're saying is this woman was just a horror, basically. She treated her husband like dirt and didn't want her kid. So she became a big sister to Leah Isabelle, who was also given away, but not to Isabelle. She was sent to live with her mother's brother instead, so her maternal uncle.
You can't just have babies and just give them away like it.
This is what she did. Can you imagine? It's awful. Just don't have kids. Or why not just put them up for proper adoption?
Yeah.
There would have been plenty of people who would have wanted them. I mean, maybe the family members really wanted children. So I guess that's fair enough. But it gets worse the further on we go. So hold on to that thought. By now, life in the Papin household was stormy and turbulent, to say the least, and it wasn't long after their third child was sent away that things came to a head and the marriage broke down completely. When the couple, air quotes, officially divorced in 1913, life for all 3 Papin girls went downhill and fast. Clémence, who, it has to be said, was an incredibly selfish and vicious woman, could have used this opportunity to step up and become a mother, but she did the very opposite. I mean, she could have walked away from that relationship just with Amelia, because I'm assuming Amelia was with them. Or she could have walked away from everybody and just not bothered her children again. But she didn't. Amelia, who at this point would have been around 12 or 13, was now living alone with her father. And even though Clémence clearly didn't want her, she didn't want Gustave to have her. So it looks like to spite him, she lied and accused her ex-husband of abusing their daughter to the police. The result being that poor Amelia then had to go and live with her mother, and God knows what happened to Gustave in this time. Now, I'm going to be really clear. The way I've written this is that I think, from everything that I've read, that this was made up by Clémence. But I might be wrong. There's not much information on this case. So I just want to put that out there. I've not read anything that said that Amelia went to her mum and said something had happened.
That's the thing I was going to say. If a child comes to you and discloses, you believe them.
Yep.
If an adult tells you something, you also believe it. But in a situation like this, where it does sound like vengeance...
Very much so.
I think you'd have to really step lightly and take it with a pinch of salt until you've got evidence, because...
And you
have to separate that child and let them speak.
Yeah.
Tell them, give them a safe space and let them speak.
Definitely. And you do hear about people saying things like this about ex-partners, and then years later them saying, oh, I just made that up. Why would you do that? That ruins lives left, right and centre.
Women have a power that unfortunately some use in really, really negative ways. And it's the children that get hurt more than anything, I think.
Well, it's the children and it's the partner that's been labelled an abuser when they're not.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
In later years, Clémence would also come out and tell people that her young daughter was to blame as she seduced Gustave, which is sickening. But unfortunately, it's something I've heard in more cases than I care to
and
think about.
And she was 12 or 13?
Yeah.
And she was
children
a seductress,
can't do that.
Was she?
Yeah.
Right.
Children cannot seduce adults. I, as I said, haven't been able to find any evidence to support the theory that Amelia was actually abused, and I tend to believe it was just her mother's way to play games and score points. Although Amelia is not one of the sisters we'll be talking about later on, I wanted to include her because it's important for you to see what life was like growing up as one of the Papins.
Yeah. Those poor children.
I know,
All
it's
of
awful. As you all know, one of the main motivations I have for reading about true crime is that I want to look into people's psyche and see if there are potential reasons, not excuses, but reasons for things they go on to do. And obviously, I'll caveat that by saying nothing excuses taking someone else's life, but understanding how a person gets to the point where they do that is not only interesting, but it helps us as a wider audience, and it helps professionals put things in place to try and avoid people getting to that point. What we will cover in this episode is both gruesome and horrifying, and I am in no way diminishing how terrible the acts to come are, but I do feel it's important to see the full picture, so it's not, as I say, it's just to explain, it's not to excuse. Having now won custody of Amelia, again you might think, oh, Clémence might have taken her home with her and at least tried to right some of her own wrongs as a parent. Nope, she never took her home. She sent her to the Bon Pasteur Catholic orphanage located in west central France in the community of Limoges. The Bon Pasteur, or in English, the Good Shepherd orphanage, was originally meant to be a retirement home. However, in 1834, just 7 years after it opened, they also began to welcome children.
So this woman literally, if I can't have her, you can't have her, and then put her in a children's home.
Yeah, and how incredibly sad is that? Because
hopefully life was better for her from then on for whatever reason, but
as well,
if the stuff about her father is not true, then that's
punishing the child.
Yeah,
I feel like this woman spent her entire adult life trying to punish these children.
It's a vendetta.
This facility was now in the hands of around 30 nuns whose work it was to care for orphans, young girls and the elderly. Bon Pasteur's mission was to, quote, teach young girls a state that can provide for their needs and keep them away from vice. I'm assuming this was how Clémence had Amelia admitted, saying that she seduced her own father and needed put on the right path. Obviously, we know that she just didn't want her child and she didn't want Gustave having her either, but this is probably the reason she gave the nuns. So while this was all going on, her second daughter, Christine, was still living happily with her aunt and uncle, likely believing they were her mother and father, when Clémence demanded to have her back, before promptly dumping her in the home too.
Wow.
She then repeated this horrid act when she removed Leah from her maternal uncle's home and sent her to be with her sisters as well.
Did they... you might not know the answer. Did they get paid to put them in there? Sometimes they gave money.
No,
No?
they didn't. She didn't get any money at this point, but later on she will.
Right.
She made it clear to the nuns that the girls were to stay with them until they were at least 15 years old and could then be sent out to work. And that's where the money comes in.
Right.
These young siblings didn't actually know each other, and it really breaks my heart because they were just thrown together. Like, Amelia was kept, she knew her mum was pregnant, the baby got whisked away. Second baby came along, whisked away. Leah and Christine never lived together. So the three of them were all put together in this home.
But at this point, did they know that they were siblings?
Yeah, they were told they were siblings.
Right.
They knew that. They knew they had the same mother and father.
But just were strangers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just makes me think they must have been so lonely, but hopefully they were able to comfort and help each other. According to sources that will reference as usual, the orphanage was meant to be a horrible place to grow up in. It's been described as brutal and harsh with a cold environment, which would be nothing like the loving and welcoming environment that Christine and Leah at least were used to. We don't know what Amelia was used to, but
Yeah,
honestly...
when you said 30 nuns, I just thought, oh, crikey, I bet you they were so strict.
Strict was probably an understatement, I think. They never really had a chance, did they, in the world?
Doomed.
Yep. In 1918, just after Leah was sent to live in Limoges in the home, Amelia, thankfully, was finally making her break and getting out of there. She had long since made the decision that she wanted to live her life serving God, and at 18, she joined a convent and became a nun. Reading between the lines, I think she did this just to leave everything about the Papin family behind. I'm not sure how much of a connection she would have made with her siblings. They were a good bit younger than her, and, you know, she didn't know them.
There might have also been some animosity towards her because she was the one that was kept.
Or she might have had animosity to them. Yeah, because they got out of it.
Had, a better opportunity for a while. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it was difficult for her to leave her newly found siblings, but learning that she spent the rest of her life in the convent she moved to, it must have been what was best for her mentally and emotionally, which is the very least that she deserved. I hope she was able to heal and find some peace, though there's not a lot of information online about her. There's not much about any of them, but specifically her, there's not much. But I'm happy when I can tell you that as far as anyone's aware, she lived out her final days in the convent that she went to, so
and
that's good.
They're all about forgiveness as well, so she would have made peace with all of that, I think.
I hope so. I hope she was able to. I hope she wasn't just hiding there. I've heard of that as well. But yeah, it would be nice to think that... I don't think they deserve forgiveness. I'm on the fence about the dad because I don't really know.
I don't. That's not my belief, but, you know, what is it? Catholic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, forgiveness and moving on, and if you're a nun, I guess it's all about serenity and just working, isn't it?
Yeah.
During their years at Bon Pasteur, the two remaining Papin girls were taught the skills they would need for entering the workplace when they were older. These were skills such as cooking and cleaning and how to respect and respond to employers so that both could become domestic servants such as cleaners, maids or nannies. This was in direct contrast though to what Christine wanted to do. She, like Amelia before her, had set her mind on becoming a nun, joining a convent and becoming a nun. I don't know if she wanted to go where Amelia was, but that's what she wanted. If she had been allowed to do this, and I really don't think we'd be talking about her today, I don't think the name Papin would have been one that would ever cross our lips. Instead, sadly, her mother overruled this decision. Which legally she was able to do because Christine was under 21, and so she forced her into a life as a maid where she wasn't even allowed to keep the money she would make. Now this intrigued me because why didn't she do this with Amelia? Why was Amelia kept in the first place? Like, why was she treated differently? And I wondered, is it maybe because the seaman was her father and she still had Clemence couldn't let him down or something? I don't know.
Yeah, there's got to be some reason.
Why would you keep one and not the other? And I've heard of this before as well.
Was she punishing the next two because they were actually...
Gustav's, maybe. And maybe he was on the alcohol by this point, miserable. Maybe he was, air quotes, taking his right as a husband, and that's how they came about. You just don't know, do you? Now, a sidebar. In France at this time, the age of majority, which is the age in which a minor becomes a legal adult, was 21. And until that age, the parent or guardian was responsible for all decision making, which means despite her longing to follow her sister into the nunnery, I don't know if nunnery is a real word or if it's something that
That's
people
where
just
they grow
say.
them.
Oh,
No, I think
was
it
the
is
seed man
nunnery.
there? Nunnery. I like it though. But so just to say, it was genuinely a legal thing, but I just don't get why she didn't do it with the first one. Are you laughing at nunnery?
I'm just thinking convent, nunnery. They all work for me.
I like the word convent. Even though Gustave and Clemence didn't really seem to like each other and were apart, they did share the same goal of having their daughters work to provide for them.
Yep.
They did nothing for their kids, but hey-ho.
Yeah.
So at the Bonpastor orphanage, the girls were forced to do work training every single day. Christine was deemed to be a diligent worker, though she could be unruly when it suited her, and was provided with more specific training in household duties which would serve her well when she aged out, as she would easily find employment. But Leah was treated differently. The nuns described her as having low intelligence, but shared that despite her shy and quiet nature, she was very obedient. And this, sidebar number 2, this breaks my heart that she was described like this. From a lot of the research I've done over the years, the words low intelligence used in these times tend to speak to some kind of learning difficulty or neurological issue which hasn't been recognised. And again, as somebody who is autistic and has ADHD, this hits, because there's quite a few bits, like I'm consider myself fairly intelligent, but I do struggle with things like telling the time, you know, so back then I probably would have been lumped into the same.
On the flip side, though, you said that she was described as low intelligence and obedient. Was she just keeping her head low because that got her through the day?
Well, interesting you should say that, and we shall come back to it.
Ah.
But again, it makes you think, what could their life have been if they didn't have these horrible, horrible parents? Going forward, Christine and Leah were placed together in employment at a few different homes in the local area when they were old enough, which was their general preference. And I say preference, but it's probably not strong enough a word. Since Leah had arrived at Bonpastor, the girls had bonded, probably over shared feelings of neglect and feelings of being unwanted by their biological parents and maybe missing the lives that they both had separately. Because if you think about it, despite their young age, they'd lost a lot. They both had families that they no longer got to see. Quickly, they developed an incredibly strong bond, seeing each other as all they had in the world. Emilia, who they barely knew, was gone, and aside from the nuns, who else did they actually have? I feel like they needed each other beyond what most of us can probably comprehend, as they became each other's only constant in life. This need bordered on obsessional and would go on to become the breeding ground for the intense feelings that would provoke reactions and an incident that would never be forgotten. Whilst working, they would often live in the homes of their employers, who would report back to the orphanage that they'd worked well and liked to keep themselves to themselves. They shared that the sisters rarely communicated with anyone but each other, but they seemed happy enough and this was good enough for them. That's all the employers really want. They don't want to get to know the staff, I guess. Despite them being in homes where they were wanted and were doing a good job, Gustave and Clemence were not happy, believing that the girls should be earning more money. So they kept forcing the pair to change jobs and start again. Now, what is interesting here is that after the abuse claims against him, Gustave, who stayed largely out of their lives, would always be available to collect the money that they earned. Clemence, for her part, was just happy to be rid of them, with motherhood never being for her. With them securing in-home employment, so to speak, she didn't have to worry that the girls were going to have to be anywhere near her. She was just living her life. She really was a person who should never have had children, but then maybe she didn't have much of a choice in that. She did have choices after they were born, though, and could have just let them be happy. Imagine hating your kids to the point you just don't want to leave them alone to be happy. Imagine hating your kids.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking that she proactively moved them so that it's got to have been about money, surely.
It was about
the
money.
Eventual.
Oh, she was open about that.
Oh, right, she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because why would you snatch them out of a home that you'd put them into when it suited you, then to,
But then why would you put them as babies, tiny, tiny babies, into a home where people wanted them and loved them, and then 7 years or 10 years
Well, that's
later
what I
rip
mean.
them out?
So
it's not normal.
That is going beyond, isn't it? Like, just leave them to be happy.
Yeah, and how much money do you need? You're a single person at this point.
Yeah, I don't like her.
I don't like her, and I could rant about her for days, but we should probably continue with why we're here today. It was 1926 when Christine landed on the doorstep of the Lancelin family home at 6 Rue de Bruyère in Le Mans. Little did she, or those inside the home, know that this would be the last home she would ever work in. Monsieur René Lancelin was a retired solicitor, and he owned this home, which was a beautiful 3-storey townhouse, which he shared with his wife Madame Léonie Lancelin and the youngest of their 2 adult daughters, Geneviève.
Oh, René.
Ah, bonjour. Mange two. Little Del Boy reference. The Lancelins were known to be a respectable family in Le Mans, who were quiet, kept themselves mainly to themselves, and were not prone to any flashy shows of excess. When she arrived, Christine was alone. But over the first few months of employment, Madame Lancelin noted that the services she had provided were of an excellent standard, and so, at Christine's request, she agreed to hire Leah to come and work there as a chambermaid, delighting both sisters who were then able to be together again.
It all sounds lovely again. She does this. She makes it sound, oh, la, 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 la.
Because it should have been lovely.
It should
Their
have
lives
been.
should have been lovely.
But...
And you can see that I sound very on their side at this point. Because they've done nothing wrong. Up until now.
Yeah.
When Leah arrived to begin work, it was decided that the work would be split between them both. So Christine was put in charge of the kitchen and all the cooking, and Leah was given the position of chambermaid and was responsible for the upkeep of the rest of the home. Which I think seems a little bit like Christine's not got as much to do. Because it was 3 stories, but...
Christine was slightly older, wasn't she?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
still.
she was like, oh, you'll love doing this job and that job.
Loser.
And you're really good at that. Wow, you go, girl. Whilst they make some duck pie. Duck? Do they eat duck? Rabbit.
Who?
French people.
We eat duck and rabbit. I used to think Welsh rarebit was rabbit. I was
So did
gutted.
I.
It's just cheese on toast.
Isn't it with beer?
What, you drink a beer?
I think you put beer in with the cheese.
Oh, well, that's just like a beer batter, isn't it?
I
So
don't
I'm
know.
sorry, that's just, come on Wales, do better. I love the Welsh.
My nana was Welsh. She laughed, like her laugh was Welsh, and it's hard to describe, but I still remember it in my head because she's gone. But
Where was she from in Wales?
Cardiff,
Cardiff.
that's not Welsh. But no.
What's occurring? I can do a Welsh accent, I can. That's Welsh. That's like Barry Island. It is.
You said you'd be doing accents today.
Oh, I meant to do French, though.
Whoopsie.
In France in the 1920s, this basically meant Leah would do the remainder of the cleaning and maintaining the rest of the rooms in the Lancelin home to a high standard, including sweeping and dusting throughout. However, both of the women worked 12 to 14 hours a day, every day, with the exception of a Sunday. On a Sunday, they only worked half the day in the house.
Yay.
Not really, because the other half of the day they were expected to attend church with the family. That ain't a day off.
That's not a day off.
It's not a day off. You don't, I mean,
not
you get to
fair.
sing.
Yeah, but it's not going to be like a Whoopi Goldberg jazzy.
I'd love to go to one of them. She was not that Nuns on the Run. No, not Nuns on the Run.
Sister Act.
Sister Act.
Nuns
Yeah,
of the
Nuns
Run
are
was
always good.
Robbie Coltrane and Eric Idle.
Not Jean Wilder.
Not Gene Wilder.
What was the little ginger girl called? She had the fringe.
Annie.
Are you just saying Annie because I said ginger?
Yeah.
Annie, are you okay? That's the second time we've had that today. Not on here, sorry. But anyway, it sounds hellish to me. You work all week.
And then you have to go to church with the family.
All things bright and all things bright and beautiful. That's me trying to do French.
Don't do that again.
I don't know any. Frère Jacques, dormez-vous, dormez-vous.
Have you got
Hinky
a teapot?
tinky,
Have
hinky
you got a
tinky tinky,
teapot? I
boom
have
boom
too.
too. That was beautiful. But anyway, they must have been absolutely knackered. But it shows they had little free time. But what they did have, they spent together in either their shared room on the 3rd floor of the Lancelin home, or sometimes they would visit a medium in the local area.
Ooh.
Most of you likely know this, but for those who don't, a medium is someone who believes they possess psychic powers. Some mediums offer to do clairvoyant readings for people, or clairaudient, where they can hear ghosties speaking, and they purport to commune with the dead and speak for them to the living.
I have a very good friend whose mother is a very successful medium. She's
One of
called
my cousins is.
Stephanie Carr.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm fully on board with all this, by the way. Sounded like I was mocking it there.
I've been to a spiritualist church, and what I was on the fence, but what they told me had no relevance to me. But when I told my dad, he was just like taken back because the message was for him.
I've told you about my experience at spiritualist church, haven't I? I think I've told it on the pod. Really quickly, in case you haven't heard that episode, if there is an episode, but I might not have said it. When I was around 18 and living in Edinburgh, I've always been into spiritualism and believe that there's something there.
Was this about your brother?
Yes.
You did tell it, yes.
Yeah, and the ghost poked me.
Yes.
No, I poked the ghost. Really quickly, I went to a spiritualist church. We had like a circle and there was like candles and everything. I was the second last person who was going to get to speak. So what you had to do was sit just in peace and quiet, do breathing exercises, and anything that came to your head you shared. So everybody was doing that. I did my bit, and then I turned and looked at the guy next to me. And the leader person said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just waiting for this." It was an old man next to me. So I'm just waiting for this guy to go next. And then another member of the group went, What old man? And I was like, "There's no man." And then another one went, "Oh, that's the ghost of old Tom." And they had me believing that there was that this was a really great ghost because he looked solid. So I poked him. And he turned round, he was hard of hearing, he turned round and he was like, "What are you doing?" So yeah, that was my experience.
Not a ghost.
Not a ghost.
You poked an old man.
What if I'd killed him? I'd be like, "This is on you."
What if you'd have decided that poking wasn't the best way to get his attention? What if you'd have done something more violent?
Like set him on fire.
I'll prove you're not a ghost.
Or what if I was one of those people that was like, "Be gone, Beelzebub," or something. No, I was just an 18-year-old that had no idea what was going on.
Poked an old man in church. How rude.
So we've gone off on a tangent
We
there.
have.
But
Sorry.
anyway, Christine and Leah were known to be believers, and they took the words spoken by mediums really seriously. And according to an article I found in Crime Magazine, these visits led Christine to admit later that she believed in a past life she had been Leah's past life's husband. So in past lives, Christine and Leah were married.
Okay.
Which is quite bizarre.
Was their relationship sexual?
We will definitely go deeper into the strange connection the pair had.
Okay.
I'm reading it like that because she's going ahead.
Odd.
But I'd like to continue by delving first into the nature of the relationship the girls had with the previous employers and the Lancelins. You will note now there was absolutely nothing that could point to either women going on to doing anything that they shouldn't have. When police looked into the young women's past work experiences, they found that Leah had a 100% record for exemplary service. Though she was quiet and wasn't one for finding work on her own initiative, Leah was able to perform her daily tasks well and followed instructions to the letter. Christine's record reflected the similar positive comments that Leah had in all but one of her previous positions. There was only one boss who said anything remotely negative, and honestly, to me it looks like she didn't know how to direct her staff. This is what she said about Christine. You tell me what you think about this. This is from the Crime Magazine article. The magazine's called Crime Magazine. It's an article. The lady of the home that Christine worked at shared that she had let Christine go after only 15 days of work because she found her, quote, extremely touchy and so haughty and rebellious, she hesitated to actually ask her to do anything.
So she hadn't directed her.
Yeah, it sounds very personal, doesn't it, as well? Now, perhaps if we had more information to support what she meant, we'd have different perspectives on this. But it does sound like she just couldn't understand how quiet that Christine was, and maybe she was reading into facial expressions or... Following the arrests of the women, shopkeepers in the local area would react saying they found the sisters to be, quote, odd and standoffish, which I do understand because they were so insular, they didn't speak to other people, but that's your right.
And it doesn't mean that they can't do a good job and stuff.
It doesn't mean they're not nice people.
No, it doesn't.
I mean,
necessarily mean
anything.
No.
I just don't want to speak to you. Like, if I go into shops, I'm either I do the whole small talk thing that you're meant to do, or I'm not rude, but apparently I've got resting bitch face for days. So that one negative reference I shared based on Christine's previous employment is even weird, because even though Lancelin had nothing bad to say about her, even Rennie, in the aftermath of what happens, said he couldn't understand it all, and both women's work had been of a high standard and they had no issues. In fact, he and Leone had been very happy with them. That said, one thing he said I did find really interesting and odd. During the trial, he admitted that the whole time Christine and Leah had worked for them, which was 7 years at this point, he hadn't said one word to either of them.
What?
Not one. And maybe that was normal for the time because he was like the boss, but is that not bizarre? You don't even say good morning or, oh, excuse me. Not one. He never said a word to them.
Or like, there's a bee in the house.
Or
Get
thank
rid
you
of the
for
bee.
dinner.
You know, anything.
There's a bee in the
7
house.
years.
Why would that be the thing they would come with?
Well, because that's an unexpected thing that you talk about, isn't it? Like something that happened. Like, that was just an example of something that might happen.
Great example.
Just, there would be surely some occasion where you would speak.
Well, but
to
they would have
people
been
in
there
your
for
home.
Christmases and birthdays. Like, did he not even say, oh, happy Christmas? Or can you turn the heating up?
What an a-hole.
I don't think he would say that. That would be really rude. If that was the one thing he said to them, that is bad. I don't know. Maybe it's just the time, or maybe he was never in. Well, he explained he never felt the need to in their home because it was his wife, Leone, or Madame Lancelin, who dealt with the help. She was responsible for communicating with them on a daily basis to give them jobs or to ask them to go out for shopping or whatnot. And even then, it was only, this is bizarre, it was only really Christine that she dealt with, and it was in written form most of the time.
Wow.
She barely spoke to Christine and never Leah.
Okay. So was she the one that was of low intelligence?
Yeah, Leah was the one that was described
Right.
by the nuns as
Described as,
yeah.
I'm not stating that she was described as.
Now, this probably suited the Papans, though, because they only really liked talking to each other.
Yeah.
So they didn't care. They lived mainly in their own little world, a little bubble of only them, unless they couldn't avoid it.
They remind me of those, they're making me think of those twins that create their own language.
I think I had their name when I originally did this.
Yeah.
The two little girls, one was really violent. I did have a list of other cases of folie à deux. I can put them up
It was
after.
another case of that,
Yeah.
definitely.
It was the same as the Swedish girls that came over here.
What, the ones that ran into traffic?
They ran into traffic, they survived that, but then one of them, a guy helped them and he was stabbed to death, if I remember rightly. It's clear that this was a really complex relationship that they had and that they were extremely attached to each other. And I guess given how they were brought up, it's not surprising, is it? You would cling on to whatever you could find. With the exceptions of their father who wanted their money and a mother who did everything she could to distance herself from them, they only had each other's, and they were really, really protective of each other. Like, beyond Mama Bear protective.
I was going to say as well, it's something that girls have a tendency more to do that,
Yeah.
to cling on to another girl than I don't think men, you know, you get obviously guys that are really, really close friends and everything, but I've never heard of it with men, this sort of connection.
The other thing as well is, because of the life that they had, they could have been low intelligence. So Leah potentially had autism. And there's definitely kids that are brought up in trauma are more susceptible to mental health issues such as borderline personality disorder or emotionally unstable personality disorder. And a trait there in both of those can be that you find your people. I'm like this. I find my people. I just assume that that's it going to be for life. Even if we fall out and things like that, things are going to be fine. So maybe it's like that as well. Maybe that came into it.
It was probably a security for them.
Yeah.
That their safe place wasn't a place, it was a person.
Yeah.
And they had that in each other.
Because they had nothing without it.
Yeah.
And the Lancelins were really pleased. And they kept the girls there for 7 years. So outwardly, at least, they appeared to treat them really well, wanted them there, and treated them better than other families with help treated them. On their top of their room and salary, the girls were also provided with heating and more food than they needed, which was unusual in the times. It is said that the girls had also begun to refer to Leone as Maman when they were in the home after an incident she had with Clémence. So Leone had discovered that Clémence was making the pair hand over all their earnings to her each month. And so the following month, she waited and she approached Clémence and told her in no uncertain terms that this was unacceptable. And from now on, the wages they earned were theirs and theirs alone, and Clémence was not getting a penny of it anymore.
Ooh.
And this is probably the first time that those girls in a long, long time had anyone stand up for them. And maybe it gave them like a respect, like new respect for Leonie. And maybe they loved her because we began calling her in the home Mamo. It says I think it was Christine. I think between them, Leah would refer to Leonie as that, but she would never say it to Leonie. What I'm not sure of is how much of what went on in the home Renee was aware of, because it wasn't always sunshine and lollipops. Leonie was prone to depression, and with it she could be quite ill-tempered with the women, and she would even shout and carry on in temper at times. When she was going through these periods, she was known to go around the home with a white glove on, dragging her fingers along surfaces to check for dirt and dust, and if she found some, it was fairly common for her to scream at the offending sister, and on one occasion she took it even further. That day she became apoplectic with rage when she found a small scrap of paper on the floor of a room Leah had previously swept. And it was just a tiny piece that anyone could have missed, and while screaming at her, she became physically abusive with the youngest Papin and forced her down on the floor to pick it up. This violent outburst was so bad that Leah, who didn't speak, was heard saying, "She had better not try that again, or I will defend myself." With all that I've told you so far, I will say that in hindsight, some witnesses would come forward and say they had noticed that Christine, who'd always appeared to be a bit paranoid when they saw her out and about, had in recent weeks seemed to be on an edge and getting even more agitated, that I don't think anyone in the household had actually noticed. We're now in 1933, and the Papins have been working diligently for the Lancelins for 7 years. We're getting to the crime part now. You'll all be glad to hear, since we're over an hour before edit. There's a lot there, though. You need all this before you can hear this part.
I told you, you're adding the flesh. Sorry, the meat. The meat to the bones.
It was the morning of the 2nd of February, 1933. It was a Saturday, and Monsieur Lancelin said goodbye to his wife Leonie and daughter Genevieve for the day.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Papa, Nicole. Jinx. I'm going to punch you later.
Thank you.
They were just leaving to go for a mother and daughter shopping trip while he was heading to do some kind of work. The three of them confirmed plans to meet at Leonie's brother's home when they were all finished, as he'd invited them over for dinner and drinks, which sounds nice. I imagine cocktails. While the Lancelins were out, both Christine and Leah Papin were going to stay in the home and do their usual work duties. And they'd worked there for so long at this point, this wasn't unusual. The girls were trusted by the family to work as diligently as they would with their employers present. The day didn't start well for them though, so a couple of days earlier, the family's iron had blown a fuse, and so one of the sisters had dropped it off at the menders in town to be fixed. On Friday, the 1st of February, so the day before, Christine had hurried along to the menders to collect it, and pay for it by the way, before rushing back home to pop it in the cupboard. And she didn't need it, so she didn't check, she just put it in the cupboard assuming I've sent it to be fixed, it's mended. The following day, whilst the family were out, she went and got it from the cupboard along with a pile of the Lancelins' laundry, which was about to tackle, plugged it in, and instantly plunged the home into darkness.
Bugger.
With no light and no heat, Christine realised that the fuse must have blown again and shorted the entire home. Thinking it through and realising it was already quite late in the day, she made the decision to pop the broken iron to the side with the intention of returning it to the menders again the following day, although that would have been a Sunday, so she probably would have had to wait till the Monday. She wasn't expecting the family home until after bedtime anyway, so it wouldn't have made any difference at all. Even though there was no electric, the sisters continued on with chores that didn't need electric, just showing you how seriously they both took their jobs. And most folk, including me, would have taken the opportunity to sack it all off and chill. You would do the same.
Yeah, but then they only might have made the meat floor again.
Yeah, I know, but, you know, like, it's the fact that they didn't even consider just chilling out. Working away, they were both surprised when between 5:30 and 7 p.m, the women of the house came through the front door. They hadn't actually intended to return before meeting Renee, but being passing the house and saw it standing there in complete darkness, they just went in to see, like, what's going on, is everything okay, and probably thinking if those two scamps buggered off somewhere. Hearing the front door open unexpectedly, Christine ran down the stairs and found Leonie trying the lights and finding them that they weren't working. By the time the women were face to face, Leonie was already questioning what on earth was going on. According to Christine, when she tried to explain to her boss what had happened with the iron, Madame Lancelin lost her temper and flew into one of her rages and attacked her. Now, just to explain, because of the final outcome of this day, the only accounts of what happened are the Papins. So they're extremely biased, quite possibly not true, we don't know. So going forward, it is their version of events. It's Christine's story that Léonie Lancelin had lost control and threw herself at Christine, which seems like an overreaction, screaming and hitting her, and so terrified and looking for a way to defend herself, Christine had reached over for a heavy pewter jug that was sitting nearby and swung it at Léonie, hitting her over the head. The impact of this both stunned and subdued Léonie, who fell backwards, essentially ending her attack on Christine. Still with the jug in hand, Christine heard footsteps coming towards her and saw Genevieve, who'd obviously heard the commotion, found her mother in a terrible state, and trying to look after her, basically ran at Christine and carried on attacking her in a bid to defend her mother. No, like, oh, what's happened here? Also in the home upstairs, Leah could hear quite the ruckus below, and she flew, apparently, downstairs to find out what was going on. She'd heard shouting, grunting and thumping as the women below fought, and she was ready to get involved. In an article by Crime Wire, when Leah got to them, Christine was screaming, quote, "I am going to massacre them!" whilst embroiled in hand-to-hand combat with Genevieve. It's chaos, because the lights aren't on.
Yeah, sounds nuts.
It sounds so believable. By this time, Léonie, who appeared to have recovered somewhat, tried to help her daughter, as any mother would in the situation. But then Leah, following Christine's lead, set upon her like an animal. So, to me, it sounds like the Lancelin women became desperate and a bit feral, and all of them were balled together, essentially fighting for survival in what French psychoanalyst and psychiatrist Jacques Lacan described as the Atrocious Quadrille, which is the name of the episode.
I love that. I love that description.
I think it's actually the Atrocious Quadrille, because it's double L. Or, if I can loosely translate, and it doesn't sound nice this way, a horrifying square dance.
I love that too.
Again, just to reiterate, this is only one side, and unfortunately that's all it'll ever be. As far as we know, it could have been that the Lancelins were attacked for no reason and were fighting for their lives, absolutely terrified, hearing that Christine was determined to massacre them. And maybe, just maybe, Christine had planned this all along, but it was supposed to happen later on in the evening when Renee was home. We don't know. We don't know if this was a spur of the moment, but what happens
maybe
next?
The women coming back unexpectedly, maybe they came in and saw something they weren't supposed to see.
Oh.
In the dark. But still, you get what I mean.
Maybe if they ate carrots, they'd be fine. Still shouting and fighting, Christine is said to have turned to her sister, who was locked in battle with Léonie, and screamed, quote, "Smash her head into the ground and tear her eyes out." Oh. I'm so sorry to the French people, if there's anybody listening.
I thought that was bloody brilliant.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I didn't know I could understand French.
Oh, oui, oui, monsieur, madame, madame. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, France. Please don't hate me. And as always, Leah deferred to her older sister and did just that. So the quote was, "Smash her head into the ground and tear her eyes out." So Leah did.
Wow.
Tearing at Leonie's face with the ferocity of a beast, while almost in tandem, Christine did the same to Genevieve.
That makes that watery bit go in the back of my mouth. It makes me feel sick because eyes.
Sorry, you might want to put your fingers in your ears.
Not in my eyes.
With no eyes and badly bleeding and bruised, and I'm speculating here, the Lancelin women were in a horrifically vulnerable state, in terrible pain and shocked beyond belief, crying out and probably begging for mercy. I would guess they never even noticed when the Papins left them alone for a few minutes. Obviously they couldn't see, but they wouldn't have even noticed that it had gone a bit still. However, had they noticed, maybe they would have breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the sisters were making a run for it and it was all over. That's what I would be praying for. However, it was not to be, because the Papins were not finished. They had both stomped upstairs and began to hunt the home for weapons. I mean, they've ripped eyes out with their hands. They're looking for weapons. They were not content with what they'd already done, and this shows that they were clearly intent on doing even more damage to the women downstairs.
Yeah, to go looking for more weapons is... That's not even. That's like you're having a break from your frenzy. That's really odd, isn't it?
You've ripped her out. Like, what more could you possibly want to do?
I'm going to go look for something to do whatever's coming next. Crikey.
Soon the Lancelins' nightmare resumed when Christine and Leah came back to where they lay, now armed with a hammer, a knife, a heavy pot, and with renewed energy to be violent against them. As the sisters stood side by side over the women, their hands and weapons rained down on them as they hit the pair over and over again, only stopping briefly to swap places and change weapons now and again. And now and again makes it sound, how prolonged was this attack?
Yeah. So was this all still in the foyer?
This is at the bottom of the
At
stairs.
the bottom of the stairs.
And I'm sorry, because I know this is absolutely horrifying, but I want you to understand that no matter how these women, the Lancelins, had spoken to or lifted their hands to the Papins during their employment, no one, and I mean no one, deserves anything close to this. This is... If you're wondering why on earth Leah went along with all this rather than stopping her sister, please just hold tight, because we'll go into Folie à Deux further down the line.
Yeah, I'm really inclined to think that they came home and caught them at something. Really inclined to think that, because otherwise they'd have had the weapons there already.
Not necessarily. My thought is that I think maybe Madame Lancelin did say something like, "This is ridiculous. You were supposed to have made sure the iron was fixed. That's the whole house shorted." And Christine just went, boom, boom.
Snap. Yeah.
As the
Wow.
Papins stood there and looked at what they'd done, allowing their breathing to slow and the sweating to stop, just across town, René Lancelin was beginning to worry about where his wife and daughter were. He was at his brother-in-law's, waiting for them to arrive, and he thought he would give them a little bit more time. They'd been out shopping. But eventually he would set off for home to find out what the matter was.
Yeah.
In the quiet, still darkness of 6 Rue de Bruyère, Christine and Leah had swiftly begun the process of preparing the bodies. Huh? This all sounds like actions of people to me that have slipped into insanity. If it happened in a haze and now they were both fully compos mentis again, if you did this, wouldn't you be like, oh my god, pure adulterated horror in front of you, and you'd either want to run, wouldn't you want to run away in case you were next and seek help if you didn't know it was you who'd done it? And I can't get my head around why they needed to be prepared. Surely you'd be thinking about how the hell you were going to explain and get away with this or make an escape.
Or cover it up.
Yeah.
Like, get rid of the bodies, not prepare them.
Well,
prepare them how?
We'll get there, and it's horrible. I found nothing to explain this need for preparation in any way, so I can only speculate that by this point Christine was no longer functioning in a way that could be described as anything other than crazed. Can, however, tell you how she would go on to prepare. Before I explain, here's a quick disclaimer.
Gemma's making a face and it's scaring me. She's like, oh, you look like you've seen the most gross thing in the world. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to go into too much detail about all of this because, believe it or not, I'm actually quite squeamish and I'm sharing what I can, and already it has my stomach churning. I'll give you enough so that you can probably make some inferences for yourself, and I think you know, knowing her plan is going to be enough to establish her state of mind at the time. And I don't know, maybe this was her regular way of thinking, but here we go. As the family cook, Christine regularly fed the family from recipes using a 1901 cookbook. And perhaps in that moment, or maybe in a carefully curated plan, she decided she would use the book's instructions for preparing rabbit for eating on the two women.
Ha!
I'm getting that bitey thing already. Yeah. This preparation was decided by her, and later it was concluded that she planned to perform this in the same manner as when she would prepare the rabbits for their actual dinner. She did that regularly, so she was using the same technique.
I know what they do to bunnies.
So do I. So use your own imagination for what the book instructed, because I'll vomit on this podcast if I have to explain it.
We can just put a recipe up for rabbit.
Oh no! Not the bunnies. Once this act was complete,
Bah.
yeah, I believe in an act meant purely to disrespect and humiliate the women. Christine Oh, I'm going to be sick. Christine chiseled marks into the legs and buttocks of both women and smeared them in blood
Please don't throw up.
to baste them.
Oh my god.
There's more to this, but I can't. Look it up. There will be full references, so you can check it out. But I warn you, there's crime scene photos online for this case, and I don't do them. Anyway, finally satisfied that everything was done, the Papans set about cleaning the home and themselves before then blocking the doors and heading up to their accommodation together. That's the worst of the gore. I find, to me,
I'm
that's
sorry,
really gory. They've cleaned and now they're like, woo, bedtime.
No, I was just thinking, are they in the dining room? Are they in the kitchen?
Still in the hall.
Still in the hall. They've just prepared them like...
Well, where do you prepare your rabbits?
Oh my god.
It's awful, isn't it? And it's just, you've tortured these women, you've murdered them in a horribly brutal way.
And now you're basting them.
Don't. Sorry.
True crime is different to gore.
But you like gore, but this is real life gore. I think that makes it worse. Let's move on. Meanwhile, having made his way home, poor René had arrived on his own doorstep.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and found himself unable to get in. He too noticed that the house was drenched in darkness, and so little knowing what to do for the best, he spent 2 hours desperately trying to find some way into his own home. When he came to realise this was hopeless, he called the police. Now later on, Christine will say that she had made sure the place was pretty much impenetrable. So I wasn't sure I was going to be able to say that, impenetrable, so that René would not be the one to find the bodies of his loved ones. Now maybe this was her showing empathy, or maybe she was lying again. I can't, as soon as people do something awful, what happened in their childhood, I feel sorry for the younger version, my heart breaks for the younger version of them, but when they take that step, I'm out.
Or did they have some kind of strange respect for him as the man of the house? Had they been... were they in that mind frame where, you know, men are all mighty and...
I'm not sure. I think that this would have happened either... If they... So say Leonie and Genevieve had gone to the brother-in-laws...
Can I just ask, how old was Genevieve, roughly?
I'm not sure. She was an adult.
She was an adult.
She was an adult, but young adult.
But yeah.
There was an older daughter as well. So she... Yeah, there's an older daughter and she's moved out because she's married. But this one isn't married. And I do think that if they hadn't came home when they did, if they came home later and Leonie had been annoyed about no lights and things like that, I think that all 3 of them would have been dealt with.
Do you?
Possibly, because it sounds like they were in such a frenzy that they could have took René down too. Officers arrived quickly and 2 of them managed to gain entry into the property by going over the back fence into the garden and climbing through a window. These officers were named Ragot and Vérité, which I discovered on one source translates as Ragot is morsel of gossip and Vérité is truth in English, which I thought was apt given that most of what we ever learn from true crime sources is either one, the other, or a mixture of both, or totally false. Also, another officer from the day was named Deleuze, which happens to be the same name as a philosopher who was known as the philosopher of schizophrenia, the disorder some have thought may have been to blame in some way for what happened.
Wow.
Upon entry, the officers couldn't see much as it was so dark. However, as their eyes grew accustomed, they thought things looked fairly normal. They found nothing unusual, and to them, the home looked clean and undisturbed. Slowly and still with trepidation, I mean, there was no lights or anything, it would feel a bit spooky anyway, they continued to make their way through the rooms before they suddenly found themselves faced with pure horror. At the foot of the stairs, they nearly tripped over the broken, battered and bruised bodies of Leonie and Genevieve. Even in their dim surroundings, they could see that an immense amount of violence had been focused on the heads of these 2 women, and for the officers, it was hard to even make out what they were looking at. Stunned by the level of brutality they were being forced to look at, the officers deduced that a monster must have visited that day, an angry and possibly psychopathic monster, and maybe he was still there. Knowing that the Papin's house and chambermaid lived in the home also, they forged forward, aware that they themselves could be in danger too, but they had to search for the pair in case they needed medical attention. In the aftermath, Rago and Verite would admit that they were cynical about this being the case and genuinely believed that they would find the sisters in the same state as the bodies that had already been discovered. Quietly, they turned to make their way up the stairs looking for the other occupants of 6 Rue de Bruyère and hoping they wouldn't stumble on the person who committed the heinous acts they had already seen. However, as the first of them lifted his foot onto the first carpeted step, he found 4 torn-out eyeballs staring up at him. Now, how this poor bugger managed to hold himself together with that macabre display in front of them is beyond me. And actually, he maybe didn't in that moment, and needed to compose himself, but for the case to be told there's never been the middle part, I would have run off and been sick. But these 2 heroes then managed to continue to the staff quarters where they attempted to open the bedroom door, but like all the others, it was locked. They had gone straight up the staircase carefully so as not to disturb anything to the top floor, and then they'd attempted to open this bedroom door, but again it was just stuck fast. So working together, Rago and Verite eventually managed to force it open, prepared for a horrific scene. So we're astonished when they found Christine and Leah alive, naked, and cuddled up together on the bed, with a hammer lying beside them.
Yeah. Okay.
Announcing themselves as police, they stood flabbergasted as they took in the scene before them, immediately noticing a bloody knife at the side of the bed. Before they could say anything else, the papa and sisters began to confess. Well, Christine did for the most part, while Leah just nodded away, as was her way. The coppers would later share that Christine was vehement that, quote, it was them or us. It was them or us.
We had no choice.
I can't keep apologising to the French.
I'm sorry.
Arresting the sisters on the spot, I imagine the 2 PCs thought that none of this could possibly be true, as shell-shocked they made sure the pair were separated and took them back to local Nick. How do you walk into a house and find all this?
The local Nick is like the police station.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
She's using that slang terminology that you might not know, you see.
But I don't know where Nick comes from, but anyway. So, just a heads up, we've pretty much covered everything gory by this point, but going forward things don't get any less strange as I share with you what happened to the women from the evening of Saturday the 2nd February 1933 and onwards. This part of the case discusses mental health, what happened with the women when they were separated, the trial and their future lives. After the arrest had been made, and while detectives combed the scene to work out exactly what had happened, both women were confined to their own jail cells.
Separate jail cells, yeah?
Yeah.
Right.
During their immediate incarceration, the women were not allowed contact with each other, and interestingly, this led to experiences which could be described as being like chalk and cheese. Given that Leah had always been considered the beta of the 2 sisters, she adapted incredibly quickly to her new surroundings, and despite still being quiet, she would speak when spoken to, and showed no signs of any bad behaviour. Prison workers found her to be compliant and calm, and during her time there she showed absolutely no signs of the violence she was charged with at all.
But she did do it.
This was in complete contrast to Christine's experience. From the off, it was clear that she couldn't cope without her sister, and that she missed Leah in a visceral manner. She was intense, and all of her actions were severe and on a high level of anxiety. Day after day, she would scream for her, and witnesses would report that she appeared to be experiencing visions and made unholy reactions to everything. Whether this meant that she couldn't or wouldn't assimilate to life in prison and without her sidekick is unclear, but she made life miserable for all of those around her. And I will say...
It sounds like she's had a complete mental breakdown, though. It sounds like she's had an episode and not recovering at all.
Well, I will say that if this was due to a mental health crisis, then this was not her fault, and I would say that I feel for what she went through, but I'm not convinced. Because the effect this separation was having on Christine was so extreme, and likely because of the disruption it was causing the prison, eventually they relented and arranged for the sisters to have a meeting together. Now I'm going to butt in here because I think it's appalling that they let Christine have what she wanted, and without considering what it could do to Leah, who was coping well now. But I do understand that mental health was not really a consideration back then, so... I'm sure it won't surprise you all that this meeting ended up being a one-off. This was because Christine was heard speaking to Leah using overtly sexual language and seen using sexual behaviours towards her. Neither were reciprocated. And this makes me really sad, and a lot of theories have come out about how close the women were. Since the officers found them wrapped up together nude on the night of the murders, many believe that they were in an incestuous relationship. And it's my personal opinion, from everything I've read on the case, that Christine was leading this and abusing Leah, who likely had no idea that this wasn't normal for sisters to do.
It sounds like it, and it could also explain the reason why she was so quiet and insular, if she was being abused.
Yeah. When we started today, I did make it clear that the Papin sisters hadn't had a great or happy start in life, with none of them experiencing any form of love or affection from either of their biological parents. And to me, it makes sense that Amelia left as soon as she could, and the two younger girls then clung on to each other for dear life. But this takes it a whole step further. Was Leah allowing this abuse as a means to survive, having seen how Christine could be when she got angry?
Or was she coerced so much that she thought it was normal, or did it start as just a feeling of security that then evolved that she couldn't back out of? There's so many...
I don't think Christine's temper would have been a one-off.
No.
Not to the extent of the night of the murders, but...
You don't go from naught to ripping someone's eyes out without having a bit of...
But we know that people in coercive relationships with coercive control will do whatever it takes to keep themselves safe because they have to, so maybe Leah went along with things because of that. Before the pair were brought to trial, it didn't take long, in July 1933, so the same year, it was reported that Christine had suffered from a psychotic break. This terrifying event manifested by her screaming and shouting, banging her head off the walls, and she even tried to hollow out her own eyeballs from their sockets with her fingers. Sorry, I forgot that bit. And it led to members of staff having to forcibly put her into a straitjacket for her own safety as well as their own. I'm going to come across really biased here, it's only because of how much I've read, so I do suggest everybody reads more if you want, but in a move that I find calculating to say the least. In the wake of this event, Christine asked to meet with the investigating magistrate for her case. The request was granted, and during the meeting, she recanted everything she had originally told them about the day of the crime. She confessed that she had tortured and murdered both Leonie and Genevieve herself, and that Leah was not a part of it at all. But everything she had done was as a result of a similar event. Now, obviously, this statement was thrown out by the judge straight away, as they saw it as a premeditated move to achieve two goals. First, they thought she had concocted the story and faked the recent break in order to be able to lodge an insanity plea, and therefore be able to serve her time in a hospital rather than prison. And secondly, they thought it was a bid to have Leah's charges reduced, perhaps to get Leah to come back to her.
Yeah.
The judge was helped in this decision, though, by Leah, who still stood by her original account, repudiating the changes in events Christine had made. This second statement was discarded. Throughout their time remanded in jail, both were tested numerous times by doctors and other medical professionals to establish if any medical illnesses could have been at play, but there was nothing ever found. September 1933 saw the suspects in France's crime of the century face trial for their actions. So because Christine had tried to recant, it pushed the trial back.
Right.
The case was heard at the Le Mans courthouse, and the street outside was absolute pandemonium, with police having to hold back crowds. Now, nowadays, I don't think the trial would have been held in the same town. It wouldn't have been held in Le Mans, it would be somewhere else, because if you do it in the time where murders like this occur, feelings are so high about the people who have done them that it causes issues. And these women were now infamous. France had been scandalised, and everyone was talking about it. Also, thanks...
And it's women as well, isn't it? Women murderers.
Yeah.
Female murderers are always...
Which we know, like, there's always, oh, women don't murder so much. But if you research enough, women do murder quite a lot. But not so much like this, I guess.
Different circumstances and scenarios, obviously, but it happens. It happens.
Stop genderising it. Also, thanks to an article in The New Yorker, journalist Janet Flanner, who used the name Jenny to write, It was all over America, so America knew. Presumably we knew as well, I don't know. We're not old enough to remember. When the trial began, despite using a self-defence defence, neither sister was able to provide a coherent, concise explanation of how it came to be that Leonie and Genevieve suffered such cold-blooded, horrific and brutal treatment at their hands, and neither showed a shred of remorse. Added to this, the prosecution had evidence which included case studies that had been done on each of the sisters by those various medical professionals. These studies included detailed outlines of the women's childhoods, reports collated on the family's mental health as a whole, and a mixture of intelligence and medical tests. The combined results of the studies found that Christine was the dominant sister of the pair, while intelligence testing showed that she was of a low intelligence and had deteriorating mental health. The dominance she held over Leah, who also scored low in intelligence tests, was so extreme that they remarked Leah no longer had a personality of her own. Essentially, Christine had completely taken over to her to the point she couldn't think for herself anymore.
She was completely brainwashed.
Yeah. She was a shell. When the Papins' early lives and family history was probed, it was also established that poor mental health ran through the entire family.
That's not surprising.
And it's not unusual, yeah. Look at the mother. As I mentioned earlier, people who were known to the pair had noticed that Christine had become agitated and erratic in the run-up to the attacks, and this supported the theory that she had fallen into some kind of mania or psychological breakdown, and due to the nature of the control she had over her sister, this pulled Leah into the same state they finally concluded was one of folie à deux. So I told you the definition of that at the beginning, but just to do it again in case you forgot, folie à deux is also known as shared psychosis or shared delusional disorder. It's a rare psychiatric symptom in which symptoms of a delusional belief and sometimes hallucinations are transmitted from one individual to another. Folie à deux is loosely translated from French to English as folly or madness of two, and refers to two people or more who appear to be in the midst of a mutual delusionary state. In this episode, because it's a pair of sisters, theirs would be called folie à deux, madness of two, but if it's 3 or 4 people, it would be called folie à trois or folie à quatre, respectively. You just change the number.
Folie à cinq, folie à six, folie à sept, folie à huit.
À neuf, à dix. This recognised medical state was initially recorded by French psychiatrist Charles Lassegue, not to do with segways, and Jules Falgray in the 19th century, and it was called Lassegue-Falgray syndrome, but they've changed it to folie à deux. And it's recognised in UK and America as shared psychotic disorder and induced delusional disorder. Guys, I promise we're nearly done.
Are there many, you might not know, are there many examples of folie à deux between two men? Because all the ones I've heard of have been women.
I haven't seen any with men. I could have a look into it though.
You should, yeah.
Generally, these cases occur when 2 or more people live close to each other and are physically isolated locations, or are themselves socially isolated, and can be referred to folie or whatever the number. Again, with this finding, I'm sure it will come as no surprise to any of you, but the upshot of the trial was that both women were found guilty. Labelled as the driving force behind the murders and torture, Christine was handed down a sentence of death to be administered by guillotine, while Leah, who was seen as coerced into her actions, was given a 10-year imprisonment. And just like when they were on remand, the pair had different experiences following the trial. Leah only served 8 of her 10-year sentence due to good behaviour. Being away from her sibling was clearly beneficial to her, and I keep wondering what her life could have been like. When she left prison behind, she did so with a new identity, and it's believed that she went to live, and I think this is really cruel, with her mother in Nantes. Sources say that Leah went back to work as a maid in a local hotel under her assumed name, and it's unlikely that her employers would ever have known who she truly was.
Oh, okay.
Even though no more trouble was ever reported, as far as we're aware, I think this is appalling, because imagine you were a guest and find out one of the Papins had access to your room. And I know medics believe she had been led into the actions, but doesn't that mean she was fairly susceptible already? So who's to say another person couldn't have taken advantage of her and led her to do more
Well, her
crimes?
mother, potentially.
Yeah.
You know,
The
she'd
root
got nobody
court-
to
the core
actually defend her now because she'd killed them.
Yeah. And she was obviously vulnerable. So,
Hopefully
anyway.
8 years, but 8 years isn't a long time, really. Oh,
And to be fair, her life in prison was probably very similar to when she was working anyway.
It's probably definitely similar to when she was in the home.
Oh, yeah. Bon
with the
Pasteur.
nuns.
Did you say gnomes?
I said nuns.
Oh, I thought you said gnomes. I thought there's no gnomes. I don't know what you mean. But anyway, I'd like to hear what
God, gnomes would
you
be
guys
scary.
think. But she apparently went on to live well into her 80s, but would it have been a happy life? Who knows?
The Christina with the guillotine, were they still public executions then?
Well, yeah, I think there was, but she never made it to 33. Despite her death sentence being commuted, she was given and replaced with life in jail. She just couldn't live without Leah. And she fell into a dark depression, followed by depths of madness whilst always pining for her younger sibling. She began to refuse food, which resulted in her basically starving to death. She was transferred to an institute for the mentally ill in Rennes. I don't know how to say that one. And this is where she died on the 18th of May 1937, which was just 4 years after that terrible night. And that, guys, you'll be glad to hear is all I've got for you. I do have other cases of folie à deux that I can share. I'll look for it to see if there's a male one.
That's bloody interesting case.
Yeah, a long
Gross.
one.
Like, prepare the bodies.
Why did I pick this one?
And she was the cook, so that was definitely down to her.
I understand folie à deux, and I understand how...
It must work on a larger scale as well, because when you said about the different numbers, I was thinking about Manson and stuff like that.
Wait, that wasn't folie à deux.
No, but it was a shared psychosis.
No, but I've got a shared psychosis, which counts as folie à... I don't know how big it was, but have you ever heard of the town in America that began dancing and they couldn't stop? That's an example of it.
I thought that was just an episode of Buffy.
No, it's a true thing.
Oh.
I'll find details about that as
more
well.
with feeling.
So it's... Oh, don't, because I love that episode.
It's brilliant.
We must walk to the fire.
Through the fire, but yeah.
Whatever. What else can we do? Anyway, yeah, so there is examples of it, I suppose, that... I mean, it was horrible for the people dancing. They just couldn't stop.
I was just wondering on what scale does it become something else, because the shared psychosis, obviously, in cults and things like that, I think it's probably a different thing by that point.
I don't think it's the same. I think that's more brainwashing than psychosis, because this
is such an intimate connection, isn't it?
It is, and their actions were so heinous. And I know things happen in cults because I like a cult story. I don't like them, but it's definitely, it's the level of violence that came with this as well. And the gore, like to pull somebody's eyeballs out. Like if you turned to me and said go and pull their eyeballs out, oh okay.
I couldn't even do that to a fish.
Why would you do it to a fish?
Well, because you do, don't you?
Just eat around it. Well, that's why they have the head. They leave the head on in the bottom of the tail, and then the middle bit's all been dressed for you. You don't
dressed
like that's what it's called.
Tutu.
It's like dressed crab.
Okay.
You don't like.
But that was just an example. I couldn't. Eyes. Ew. No. Gross. Ew.
I don't know what to do with it. I don't know. They prepared the bodies,
but like rabbits.
Why? Because they didn't eat them.
Well, I was thinking, did they get the carrots and the celery out? But no, they just meant like the way they
filleted them. Yeah, but then for no reason, because you do hear about other.
Sorry, I'm not laughing. I'm just squeamish laughing. Like it's so gross.
But when people tend to dismember bodies, it's so that they can hide them easier or burn them, or they just left them still at the foot of the stairs. Because
especially with Christine, because she was mental. That's why. Because there is no reason to do that. Why would you do that?
I do wonder if she was schizophrenic. I do wonder that.
There had to have been something.
Because that usually shows itself around 25, and I can't think what age the girls would have been. What year was... Leia was... Let's have a look.
They were around that age, weren't they?
It must have been. It was 1933 it happened. Right. 1905 was when Christine was born, so 33 minus 5. Yeah, she was late 20s. So maybe it was something like that. But, I mean, I had all the feels for them until this happened. And I do... there is part of me that still thinks I feel for Leia. I feel for Amelia as well, because she must have known afterwards, oh my god, that was my siblings.
Yeah. They're not protected from the news and stuff, are they? They get to hear when they're in a nunnery.
So, sorry guys.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, but horrific. And just because it's so vague as to why.
Yeah, and I think...
That's the annoying part. You want to know, don't you? I want to know. Like,
I want to know the reason, yeah. And I do see...
I don't think the iron was the reason. I just think
I think
that's
that
bold.
Christine was slowly descending into some mental health issue, whether it was schizophrenia or not. And I think being questioned over there and could have made her...
Flip.
The switch just flip. Yeah. And...
But then it could have been anything, couldn't it?
Well, it could have been. You hear about it. People take stuff for so long. Like, in domestic abuse cases, sometimes you'll hear the wife killing her abuser, and it'll be over something like you said, the tatties were
Soggy.
Not cooked properly. Yeah. Just to let you know that my next case is worse than this one in a different way. It's not gore. It's not gore. It's just heartbreaking. It'll break you in two.
I'm already broken.
That's true. So you're next.
I'm next.
Your episode is out. When is your episode out?
When's your episode out? On Sunday?
Yes.
What's the date on Sunday?
So this episode is out on the 15th. Yours will be out on the 29th.
Cool beans.
Which is when daylight saving time starts. British summer begins on the 29th of March. That can't be right. Oh, wait, no, wait. Yes, British summertime begins.
It doesn't... We're in Scotland, it doesn't...
It does. Stop slacking off my country, biatch. Right, you got anything to say before we go?
I don't think so. I thought I did, but you've covered everything, so...
Please like and follow and share.
And...
Suggest.
It's not just me that does the voices, you see.
It never has been. I just cut my bits out.
I wasn't sure about whether to say anything about he who died in prison.
No, I don't want to mention
I don't
him.
actually
But we can mention Holly and Jessica, though.
Yeah.
Our thoughts go out to their families. Yep, because I don't know how they're feeling right now. Because some people would want the person to rot in jail for years and years and years, and some wouldn't.
Yeah.
He got what
somebody
he deserved.
said to me, I hope he survives another attack so that he can suffer more and be attacked again. I just don't want them to suffer.
See, I'm not there. I'm not a
and I think
punishment
probably
person.
every time anything comes up in the news, it's probably just another gut punch for them. And I'm sorry.
But he should have no more airtime. But I will say that the same day that I saw about his attack, in the same prison, I read, and I cannot find it anywhere else, so I don't know if it was pulled really quickly, but Wayne Couzens was also attacked. The murderer of Sarah Everard, the cop.
Yeah, I heard there was a small bit in an article that said that he's living in fear for his life.
Good.
So he should.
Good. Did you hear this?
I just wanted to say as well, the person that did this to him...
Yeah, was a murderer as well.
He wasn't just a murderer. He raped a pregnant woman.
Mm-hmm.
These are not good people. These are not people we need to be putting their faces on flags or anything. This is...
No, some of the comments on posts I saw were disgusting. Oh, well done, that man. Are you for real?
Yeah. It's...
And one other thing that I saw when it spoke about Wayne Couzens was how the police had started to pull people, other police officers were now getting caught and pulled out of that environment, and they were getting charged And that's the least you can fucking do. Vet people better. And, like, they know, the ones, like, Wayne Cousins, in the aftermath, people would say, oh yeah, we called him this name because we knew he was creepy. We knew he did stuff like this. We knew he was quite violent. Then say something, do something. You know, don't just allow a young woman who was out on a walk to be murdered and put in the boot of a car.
Yeah.
Or put in the boot of a car.
Oh, he's a bit rapey. Like, don't say things like that. You can't say things like that.
If you feel that,
no,
that is what they are.
But don't say it as a
report
joke.
It. They're not joking.
They weren't. That's what I'm saying. Report it. Don't just.
But they were.
Don't just nickname him that, and don't just.
And that is how some people like. Because the police is so institutionalised, it is difficult for people in the police to talk out about other police. I get that, and so. If you're a higher up and you're like, excuse me, what did you call him? Oh, he gets called rapey. You should be the one that's looking into that.
We've had something with one of our listeners recently, and we've both said, actually, tell what you've got to say, because we believe that would be the right thing to do, because we would want to know if somebody's being lechy or whatever. We've got to be a bit careful, but, you know, we both said if we were that person, we would want to know the details. We would speak out, and we would want it, So, it's don't protect people if they're doing something wrong.
Yeah,
say.
Right, shall we sign off for this week?
Aye, aye, Capitan.
Bye bye.
Keep on trucking.
Thank you for listening. Bye.